Yadkin County Farm Bureau is a nonprofit agricultural advocacy organization that began in 1940. Yadkin County Farm Bureau officially organized after the American Farm Bureau Federation was founded in 1919 and North Carolina Farm Bureau Federation in 1936. Reverend E.R. Crater and Dwight Williamson began enlisting members in Yadkin County in 1940. According to the 1940 U.S. Census of Agriculture, 2,948 Yadkin County farms reported a total value of farm products sold of $1.9 million, with $1.7 million coming from crop sales and $200,000 coming from the sale of livestock and livestock products. Top cash crops in 1940 for Yadkin County: tobacco at number 1, followed by corn, wheat, dairy, and poultry products. In 1940, farmers were 18% of the American labor force. One farmer fed 19 other Americans. Reverend Crater was very involved in getting electricity to the most rural areas of North Carolina and the United States. He served on numerous rural electric cooperative boards. Reverend Crater also served as the first administrator to Hoots Hospital in Yadkinville. There is no doubt, based on his service, that Mr. Crater had a passion to see rural communities progress. Mr. Crater started enlisting members and forming our county organization due to North Carolina Farm Bureau's active involvement in rural electrical needs and desire to help rural communities improve and move toward the future. Reverend Crater penned a quote for North Carolina Farm Bureau and won a prize for writing, "For a progressive state and nation, join the Farm Bureau Federation." On April 30th, 1953, Reverend Crater made remarks entitled "Out of the Darkness" to a meeting in Washington, D.C., which was attended by members of Tar Heel Electric Membership Association of North Carolina and by members of the North Carolina delegation to Congress. At the time of Reverend Crater's address, he was vice president of the Davie Electric Membership Corporation and past president of Tar Heel Electric Membership Association. In those remarks, Reverend Crater outlined why electricity in rural North Carolina was so important to all who live in rural North Carolina, but specifically the farm community. He said, "The farmer, the forgotten Americans, a lonely, solitary segment of our people apparently bypassed by the times and disinherited by even progress herself." His entire address was entered into the congressional record of the U.S. House of Representatives by Representative Howard D. Cooley on Tuesday, May 9, 1953. Yadkin County Farm Bureau's roots as an organization are tied to rural electrification. President Franklin D. Roosevelt created the Rural Electrification Administration, REA, in 1935 at a time when less than 3% of North Carolina farms had power and less than 11% of farms nationwide. It wasn't until the late 1940s and into the 1950s that most North Carolina farms received power. Prior to electricity, according to a USDA study in 1919, rural families spent 10 hours per week simply hauling water from a well or spring to the home. From 1940 till 1953, Four served as president of Yadkin County Farm Bureau: Reverend E.R. Crater, W. Herbert Fleming, Bill Moxley, and J. Frank Bryant.
Well, when I first started as a member of director, it was more of the people thought it was an insurance company than they did a farm organization, and that has grown through the years till the people know a lot more of what Farm Bureau is about, and I've been connected with it for several years. But we have helped the farmers by, one thing, taking more interest in legislation that's being passed in the state, local, state, and national level. Shortly after I got out of the Army is when I started being a director of Farm Bureau. And a few years later I was elected president and served that for several years, and also served on the state board for a few years.
In June of 1953, Yadkin County Farm Bureau was chartered. Members of the Board of Directors met with Yadkin County Clerk of Court, Lon West, and the Articles of Incorporation were filed with North Carolina Secretary of State, Thad Urey. Charter board members were President Frank Bryant, Vice President Hazel Poplin, Secretary Treasurer Creasy J. Brown, Directors Clint Hobson, Fonzie Brown, Frank Fleming, Claude Shore, W.H. Fleming, A.R. Moxley, N.P. Bryant, Vance Ray, Bill Moxley, E.W. Pardue, Leon Thomason, and Roy Dowd. Also in 1953, members of the North Carolina Farm Bureau Federation Board of Directors voted to establish the North Carolina Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company. This was the first of the Farm Bureau membership benefits program. Today, there are numerous member benefits offering a wide range of savings and services, from discounts on GM vehicles, Case IH farm equipment, and travel discounts, to assistance recovering your identity in the unfortunate event of ID theft. The North Carolina Farm Bureau Board of Directors recognize the need and the lack of service for reliable insurance products in rural sections of North Carolina. Their forethought and desire to serve the organization's members set a strong precedent that we continue to this day. Clinton D. Hobson was elected president in 1953 and served till 1964.
The greatest challenge that agriculture will face in the future is public perception. People who do not understand what goes on the farm or goes on in agribusiness, and people that don't understand where their food comes from, how the steps that it takes for it to get to a grocery store shelf, and what happens before it arrives at a grocery store shelf. I think that'll be a large challenge that those that's involved in agriculture and agribusiness in the future will have to face. And I think that there's already some positive steps, education programs that's in place through Farm Bureau and other agricultural organizations that's answering those questions and helping people understand what it takes to get a product to the grocery store shelf so that they can purchase it. I think another challenge that agriculture and farming as an industry will face will be people that's willing to invest their time and their money and their life into producing food, because it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, and it is a lifetime investment to be actively farming. And I think finding those people that are willing to do it to feed a hungry world is going to be a challenge that we're going to face in our food supply very soon. Agriculture is important to me because it provides food for my family, it provides shelter for my family, it provides a livelihood for my family. And I'm proud to be involved in agriculture and agribusiness, and I'm proud to be involved with Farm Bureau. I think it's a great organization.
In 1964, Yadkin County Farm Bureau reported 521 member families. J. Hazel Poplin served as president of Yadkin County Farm Bureau from 1954 till 1967. E. Weldon Perdue served as Yadkin County Farm Bureau president from 1968 till 1971. On June 11, 1973, the board met for the first time in the newly constructed building at 204 West Cherry Street, Yadkinville. Prior to the Cherry Street location, Yadkin County Farm Bureau had been housed in the Todd Building at 122 West Main Street, Yadkinville. Prior to the Todd Building, Yadkin County Farm Bureau was located in a building owned by Bill Rutledge on Jackson Street, east of the Yadkin County Courthouse. In 1981, Yadkin County Farm Bureau reported over 2,400 member families. Also, in 1982, Yadkin County had 1,301 farms. Average size was 89 acres. Farmers made up 3.4% of the American labor force, and one farmer fed about 115 others. Roy A. Steelman was elected Yadkin County Farm Bureau president in 1972 and served for 14 years until 1986.
Well, when we first became involved with Farm Bureau was when my husband got out of service in 1952, and we took his mustering out pay and bought us a new car. And Herbert Fleming at that time was selling insurance, just very part-time. And we went up and got insurance on the car with Herbert. And then they organized and they asked Frank if he would be on the board, and of course he was. And he was from then till they died. So we raised our children on Farm Bureau, and I still have all my insurance and everything with them, and they've always been a good company, and we've enjoyed our association with them. I think the biggest challenge to agriculture is just all these people who have moved to the country and then don't want the farm things around them. They don't want to be bothered with it. And to me, that's the biggest challenge right now that I can think of. I feel like anybody that goes into farming now is going to have a tremendous challenge, both financially and perception of the people around them, because so near everybody goes to the grocery store and buys what they want. They don't ever stop to think where it came from. And there's going to have to be a lot of public relations between the farm and the people who buy the farm products. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that they will have, because there's always going to be improvements in the fertilizer and the seed and that sort of thing. There are people working on that all the time, and eventually they'll come up with a lot of answers, I'm sure, that we've not had in the past. But I think public relations is going to be the biggest problem that they have.
The wasting the food, it's everywhere you go. You look at the grocery stores, the restaurants, the challenges that the young farmers are going to have in the future is to try to produce that crop that's more appealing. We're going to be using words and definitions that we shouldn't have to use. You know, if the American public could, and that's one thing Farm Bureau has been really great on, is the Young Farmer and Rancher program, and where the Women's Committee are going to the schools and providing the information. These kids growing up, the earlier we can get them on the farm and see these animals and see how they're treated, see how the crops are grown. The blemish on that potato, that doesn't make the potato bad. It doesn't make the apple bad. The old jokes are, you know, if you've got a worm in your apple, that's extra protein. You don't need to be wasting that food.
As the organization continued to grow, the need was realized to open 2 county sub-offices. The Jonesville sub-office opened June 1, 1994, and the East Bend sub-office opened October 3, 1994. Jack F. Shore served as president of Yadkin County Farm Bureau for 17 years, from 1987 until 2004. Bobby J. Bud Matthews Jr. served as president from 2005 through 2009. The success of the Farm Bureau Agricultural Advocacy Organization, as well as the success of the North Carolina Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company, was creating growing pains across the organization. On June 6, 2005, the Yadkin County Farm Bureau Board of Directors voted to accept the restructure agreements presented by the North Carolina Farm Bureau as recommended by the Internal Revenue Service. The agreements went into effect on July 1, 2005. While the restructure was a challenge to implement, the benefits have far outweighed the challenges of implementation. The roles of employees and volunteers were more clearly defined and gave Yadkin County Farm Bureau the opportunity to focus on our mission, to be an advocate for agriculture and rural communities, more so than we were ever able to in the past. During 2006, Yadkin County Farm Bureau's Board of Directors voted to start an agricultural scholarship program. In 2006, the program awarded $500 to a graduating high school senior from each of the Yadkin County high schools that would be pursuing a degree in an agriculture-related field. In 2010, the award amount was increased to $1,000. In 2011, the board again voted to change the Yadkin County Farm Bureau Agricultural Scholarship. In a statement that our county organization is serious about agriculture education, the award was changed to $1,000 per year for up to 4 years, as long as the student continues to qualify. Total value, $4,000.
Over the years, the director sort of got aged out and passed away, and need new people coming on. And I volunteered to help out. They do, they're our voice in Raleigh with the legislature to control some of the things that they might want to take out of agriculture. So that's how it works. We've got to have somebody to speak for us.
W. Justin Summers started serving as president of Yadkin County Farm Bureau in 2010. According to the 2012 U.S. Census of Agriculture, 952 Yadkin County farms reported a total value of farm products sold of $124.7 million, with $33.4 million coming from crop sales and $91.3 million coming from the sale of livestock and livestock products. Top cash crops in 2012 for Yadkin County included poultry and eggs at $72.6 million, corn $9.8 million, soybeans $9.5 million, tobacco $9.4 million, and cattle and calves at $7.4 million. Average Yadkin County farm size in 2012 was 105 acres. Farmers are less than 2% of the total American labor force, and one farmer is responsible for feeding 155 members of the non-farming public. In 2014, Yadkin County Farm Bureau reported 5,738 member families.
I think the best part of Farm Bureau is the caring people and the services they give and the things that are available. They have so much to offer. I really love to see the growth. We started from a cigar box to a cash register, and we didn't have much to work with, and Zach Ladd was there, and we just constantly continued to grow and serve the people. It's a family organization. It includes the young and the old, and it's a service to everybody. It's just a family farm organization, I'd say.
Since our founding, we have fought for issues that are important to rural farm people and the citizens of Yadkin County. We've taken the concerns of Yadkin County farmers to the halls of Congress, the State General Assembly, and to the county courthouse. We promote agriculture and farmers. We train future leaders through our support of FFA, 4-H programs, and programs that are offered by the North Carolina Farm Bureau Federation and the American Farm Bureau Federation. Over the years, Yadkin County Farm Bureau has had an active Women's Committee, Young Farmer and Rancher Committee, legislative programs, and policy development programs. Farm Bureau was organized with the goal of protecting the interests of farm and rural families. For the first time, an organization would give farmers a unified voice on agricultural issues. Now, as then, Farm Bureau is a grassroots organization, serving as a legislative advocate for our members at the local, state, national, and international levels. From the county courthouse to the halls of Congress, Farm Bureau provides powerful and effective representation for agriculture and rural communities.
Happy 75th birthday, Farm Bureau.
Happy 75th birthday of Farm Bureau.
Happy 75th anniversary of Yadkin County Farm Bureau.
And I just want to wish Yadkin County Farm Bureau a happy 75th anniversary.